Welcome back. We absolutely love the fact that you have stuck around because we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're in the cauldron now. It's time for our relationship chat, and we love focusing on relationships. And we love putting these little dilemmas out there just to poke the bear somewhat. So please, my good friend, will you lay down the scenario for today's chat?
Well, that bear is being poked today, maybe even hitting a little bit close to home. But let's get into it, okay? It says, my fiance and I have been together for 10 years, and we've been engaged for just 1 year. And since we plan on getting married and starting our own family together, I would like us to buy our own property. That makes sense. With my finances, I can afford to buy that for us, but he wants us to live with his parents. And I'm not comfortable with that. So what do I do? Is this a deal breaker? Is it because I want to buy the property myself, perhaps? I just am so clueless. I do not know what to do.
I don't think any of us know what to do right now. So I think joining us to discuss this matter is the gent himself. No, it's, we've brought in the professionals. We're going to get some much needed advice from Daniela Mayer. She's a FAMAC accredited family therapist, divorce mediator, and parenting coordinator. I don't know, we needed coordinators. That makes me so happy. I love it. Welcome to the show, Daniela.
Thank you
so
very much. It's so nice to be here.
Crazy scenario, and I think I got to dive straight into this. I think when it comes to communication, this is a big topic that's clearly needing to be navigated a bit better in couples, right?
Absolutely.
When it comes to communicating things like finances, how do you effectively do that? I don't know, we've got the situation, we'll dive into that in a bit, but let's just set the ballpark.
You're just asking for a friend.
Yeah, asking for a friend.
Of a friend.
I think that you should tell your friend no, seriously, this is one of what we call the tough conversations that we have when we are dealing with a future partner.
Yeah.
And the hope, and we don't see it enough, is that people feel comfortable enough to have these discussions. So I'll get into it a bit later, but what I would love to see is maybe having those conversations with a neutral party before the situations arise, so that when something comes up, you know exactly how you plan on dealing with them.
Someone who is trained to mediate such
Potentially
moments.
somebody who's trained to mediate,
exactly,
But we have different cultural aspects as well. So a lot of people rely on family members, which is very fitting to this topic. So long as somebody is guiding a relationship, I suppose, if it's necessary, if you can't have the conversation by yourselves, then you're good to go, really.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about compromise versus deal breaking, right? In this situation particularly, I'm a woman too, also trying to get my financial independence. And I know once you've got that, it's hard to let that go. So where is this middle ground? How do I even approach the conversation without maybe even offending my man's feelings? What do I say?
So, the bottom line, I'm going to just dumb it down a little bit. Have you ever been in a situation with a friend where you're both starving? Let's say you're so hungry, you have played football or something, and then you sit down and you get this giant pizza. And the compromise here is, you know what, I'm a little bit taller than you. I'm going to eat all of it. You're going to eat none of it. But we're still going to be best friends. How does that sound as a compromise?
Nah.
Terrible.
No.
You're not doing it again, dude.
Not a great.
Never again, Ralph.
Not a great
No deal.
idea. So what is the word compromise? And this is so fundamental to the whole discussion. Is you feel a bit of discomfort, I feel a bit of discomfort, and together we can come together and make a new norm. If one person is expected to make all the sacrifice, that's no longer compromise, that is now control. And you don't want to be in a situation of control going forward. So, yeah.
I absolutely love that, and because you make it quite clear and quite practical, and I think often we need to get over ourselves or get out of our own way because there is so much baggage in a space like this. Now, we are hitting major trigger points here. Parents. As soon as parents come into the mix, I would suggest just try living with the parents for 2 weeks and see if that will land, first of all, before you have that grand notion of staying with the parents. But we're talking about our hierarchy of needs here. We are talking about our childhood kind of structure, our own baggage and emotional kind of content. And now you've got to meet someone at a very advanced stage of life and somehow match your baggage and 100%. Work that out. So how do we broach these things? Does it, as Raul pointed out, is it the communication you have building up to that point to understand the family relationship, how you are in that mix? Where does that side, how do we deal with our family baggage?
Sure.
So this is also quite a complex question. I'm going to try and keep it simple, is that we all grow up thinking that our lives and our foundations and our families are right.
Yeah.
We look at all the little holes and we kind of it's almost like a red flag in a relationship. We're like, oh, well, that doesn't seem right, but it's normal.
Yeah.
We then come into a relationship expecting the other person to come into our normal. but they themselves have their little holes in everything. So when it comes to building a relationship together with all this baggage, a couple really needs to be able to decide what was right and wrong within their own systems, come together and create a new system. And it is vital that they create a new system that works for the two of them, not for mother-in-law, not for father-in-law. Be respectful of the other families and their baggage. But definitely, you definitely don't have to go forward modeling that kind of behavior or upbringing.
Completely.
Hey.
You can free yourself from it. I feel like you've just coordinated me. Thank you. I feel coordinated. I love that.
I'd like to dive back into this scenario because I really think that there's a lot of people that resonate with this right now. Maybe the gender roles might be different, but I do feel that something needs to happen here. A decision needs to be made.
She just needs to go and buy that house, move out, and wait for him to come.
Yes, independent woman.
Exactly. How do you move forward from this? What decisions should be made and what should be put in place to navigate this sort of obstacle?
So this is kind of like where knowing yourself and what you need in your life plays a massive role. Because the one piece of good news I have for this writer is that there's no council that govern what you need to compromise on or not. It's such a personal thing.
You make the rules.
So you make your own rules. And if your partner doesn't want to agree to those rules, what is the relationship? The second piece of good news I have for her is that rather do it now than when you've got married and have a bunch of kids and then decide that you cannot actually come to a common ground. So my advice would be 100% keep your independence, but without like thwarting the other person. So do what you need to do. If the compromise, if it's not a compromise for you, if I am not prepared to live with my mother-in-law, it's a no-go, because that is then me saying, fine, you know what, you have all the pizza, and I'll just stay here and love you anyway. But later down the line, what is that going to do to the relationship and to me as a person?
Going to fester.
And to my children. And I'm
The
a divorce mediator. I see this all the time. When you're not communicating from the beginning about things like this, it's just a recipe for disaster.
And I suppose because the kids are modeling what they see, not what you're telling them. And you might think you're in control of all of this, but that bigger picture, you are definitely not. And I think we're always wanting our partner to give us the control, give us the security, give us the happiness. None of those things are your partner's responsibility, okay?
Absolutely.
You've got to take that on board. So let us know what your thoughts are on this situation. Maybe you're living it right now. Head over to our social media pages. At Expresso Show is the handle to use. Let us know how you would deal with this. How are you dealing with it right now? Send us a WhatsApp voice note with an anonymous. I love those. 063-408-8863. Let's keep it spicy. No, this is a safe place. We'd love to hear from you.
Oh, you can make my day. It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Well, a very big good morning if you've just tuned in. It is Tuesday morning, and you know what that means. It's time to focus on our relationships. And today's dilemma, my goodness, we've got into it, but let's just do a bit of a rehash, right?
Okay.
My fiance and I have been together for 10 years, and we're 1 year engaged. And since we plan on getting married and starting our own family together, I would just like us to buy our own property. It's not a lot to ask for. And with my finances, I can afford to buy that for us. But he wants to live with his parents, and I'm not comfortable with that. So it leaves us with the question, what do I do? Is this a deal breaker, yes or no? And we, of course, have to get to a conclusion here, but not without your help. We've, of course, asked you to also jump on those voice notes, those messages across our socials. And we've got a professional in our midst who's going to help us navigate this conversation. Daniela May is still with us. She is a FAMA CA accredited family therapist, as well as a divorce mediator and parenting coordinator. And it feels like you've come at the right time, because wow, where do we go from here?
I hope you're going to pay for the private consult that you've been getting on that
Hey,
side
bro,
of the studio,
that
buddy.
was off record.
Nothing on this show is off record. It seems that people have been weighing in, and I would imagine this, as much as this is quite specific, this echoes a lot of these kind of big gateway compromises that we might hit. So let's take a look at the first of our comments.
Yeah, Samantha comes through. Samantha Urice Farmer says, my advice would be to talk to him about it and make it known that you are uncomfortable with the idea, and also to try and understand his point of view as to why he prefers to stay with his parents. Communication is key, and only the two of you can find a suitable solution. I feel like someone's been listening to you.
Yeah.
I was just going to say thank you, Samantha. 100%. That's exactly right. Exactly. Exactly right.
Massive
that.
box tick there. Well done.
Nice, yeah.
Makoro saying, you must have your own space. He can build and stay with his parents and visit you whenever there is a need.
Yes, Makoro.
Makoro.
Kaween.
He comes through
Yeah,
every
that's why I was
Tuesday.
rubbing my fingers like Gargamel earlier, because I knew one of these things would come in.
I also think to myself, bro, if you find a woman that's willing to buy a house, bro, keep her,
Take
put
it.
a ring on that for sure, man. That's a win.
100%. Yeah, I know. I'm still trying to understand the scenario. This comment, I think, takes the cake for me. Take a look at this. Never move in with the in-laws.
Are those like the rules of life? Rule number 1.
Yeah.
Philip, that's where I'm sorry for whatever you went through, clearly, to have that opinion. This says to me, Daniela, that there is a roadmap, because we're dealing with kind of archetypal things. Your relationship with your parent,
Yep.
your relationship with money.
Yep.
These are things that you yourself are probably grappling with as you go through these gateways in your relationship, which means holding up a mirror more than looking for an answer from your partner, which has got to be like the most difficult thing we can do. So when you start understanding yourself, how does that conversation look? What do you need to do to maybe, because your partner's out of your control. You yourself, you can control the way you see the world and yourself. So how does that kind of self-work look in this case?
So I have an exercise that I do with a lot of my clients. I just want to throw in quickly that we are looking at a divorce rate of between 50 and 60% currently.
Holy moly.
This is telling us that half of the marriages that we see have or are failing. So this is not just a game of self-reflection. This is vital to moving forward in this kind
This
of
is society. This
institution.
is-
This is a
yeah.
society thing. The exercise I do is I find that when you are looking inward and looking at yourself, you're completely out of control. When you are emotionally involved in a situation, you don't see it for what it's worth. So I say, put yourself in the shoes of a friend
Okay.
and ask yourself the question as though your friend has asked the question. And see what advice you would give your friend, especially a friend that you really like.
Yeah, someone that you care about, Sal. Someone that you
Because
really...
if I come and I say, oh no, I'm unhappy because of this, I don't know what to do. If my sister or my friend came to say to me, I'm unhappy because X, Y, and Z, I would be like, are you joking?
Girl, don't even
Come on,
joke.
buy
yeah.
the house. Are you mad? Why are you going to go and move in there? You will always be an outsider. Come on. Why can't I see that for myself? So that's very valuable in kind of self-reflection, but from an outside point of view.
That's
Just
quite a
short
cool,
circuit that.
That's
Yeah, I
an
love that.
unbiased way to get your own raw emotion. You're like tricking yourself into giving yourself the truth. I really like that
But you have to be
strategy.
honest with yourself, though. That's the
I
only
think
way it
that
works.
is the difference.
And your
right?
best mates will be honest.
Yeah.
Whether you want it or not, they will tell you like it
The
is.
other problem is people don't like the answers. I mean, there's so many people that also like psychologist hop until they find somebody that agrees with them, you know. So find someone you trust. Like for me, it's my dad. I trust my dad completely. It doesn't matter what I ask him. I accept that the answer is going to be in my best interest. Find yourself a person like that and then decide actively that you're going to listen to their advice and use it in the way that works for you.
Daniela, I had a question around when do you know that it is time to call you up, you know? We can have a conversation between ourselves. I can do the self-reflection. I can be my own best friend. But how do I know, okay, now is a moment that I need to call professional help?
I think that when you have tried and tested everything else and nothing else is giving you any sort of peace in an answer, obviously if there's any sort of conflict, I mean, that's where my practice is mainly in conflict resolution. So if you feel like you're not getting anywhere or it's a dead end and you've tried communicating
toxic,
with your partner,
yeah.
toxic, crazy, out of control. But what I would love to see is I would love to see as part of like a prenup agreement or the law that all married couples or all relationships are mandated to go to therapy at least maybe once every 6 months, you know?
Or you lose your whatever on your medical
driver's
aid or your
license.
There must be
100%.
consequences,
on your medical
right?
aid.
Hey, listen,
Exactly.
driving in anger is probably the most dangerous.
But
thing.
exactly, because imagine a life where we're staying on top of the little conflicts and we're dealing with the little ones as they come up instead of like this complete mushroom effect of everything.
Is there a point in a relationship where we can preempt all of this, when these gateways are approaching, because they are quite clear? That's the joy of all of us living the human condition, is we know that we're all kind of similar in that sense. Is it not worth, and I don't want you to put so much pressure on your new partner after dating for 2 weeks, let's go and see a marriage counselor, etc. Is there an opportunity to sit with someone to broach these things before they've even started to fester or become toxic?
So how about you meet somebody and you really like them and you go on a few dates and you decide this is going to become more, and you say to that person, it is very important to me that you do this with me. How do you feel about it? I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but I'm saying that when we get to those tough points, I would love if we had a solution and a roadmap on how we're going to deal with it.
To mitigate the
So,
fallout.
you know what? Let's go and just have the chat while we're all happy and in love, so that if something happens that kind of like tilts us a little bit, that we already know how we're going to deal with it, you know? So I think that's very important to be able to preempt these things, because I'm sorry to tell everybody is that no relationship is perfect forever, and every single relationship ends. Whether it's through death or through divorce, every relationship ends. So what are we left with? Ourselves. And who has to be happy in it all? Ourselves. And we cannot make anybody else happy unless we are happy. And that is so cliched, but it is so true.
Well, that's the reason why it's cliched. Girl,
Exactly.
go buy your house.
Go buy your house.
You better.
And let's just see what happens. He can bring tomato bread he cooked by his mom to you from the home kitchen. Daniela, you are really good at what you do. Thank you so much for playing along with us. I know a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but if you are going through the most right now, we've got your back, and hopefully you found a couple of gems in there.